Let's talk a little bit about TKO. We are going to eventually get to CM Punk. So if you've got questions about CM Punk, we certainly want to hear from you. But there was a tweet from Brandon Thurston I wanted to point out that was a business question. And man, you've made a lot of money investing in companies, charting their moves. And this is something that didn't immediately dawn on me that Brandon Thurston pointed out. He's talking about TKO's significant relationships that now exist across Disney, Netflix, NBCU, Nexstar, Fox, A&E, Paramount. A lot of these, of course, may or may not have exclusivity terms in the contract. So it may or may not be in writing. And we know that, that will be discussed. It's been discussed before. But I think you could argue that WWE may have effectively foreclosed nearly all of the United States wrestling television market at this point. There are a few prominent media companies out there that TKO doesn't have deals with, like Amazon, Warner Brothers Discovery, Apple. But MLW got its case to move forward when pre-merger WWE had deals of a lesser variety of U.S. media partners. So since there's been, a precedent set with that MLW lawsuit, and this is before they had all of these tentacles, man, this is crazy like a fox. They've been able to, this is almost, to make an analogy maybe some of you have heard before, when a husband and a wife are going to get divorced, and maybe they've got a bunch of assets, if one of the more savvy spouses goes around and meets with all the prominent divorce attorneys and takes a consultation or does business with all of those in advance of the filing, you effectively block your spouse's ability to land a good attorney. And that's a crazy strategy, but that kind of feels like what WWE has maybe accidentally or intentionally done. I didn't even think of this, but this is great stuff, John.
It's terrific stuff. And this isn't a wrestling business. No. I mean, that was the whole thing with the WWE back in the 80s. It wasn't a wrestling business. Crockett was a wrestling business. Vern was a wrestling business. Graham was a wrestling business. Fritz was a wrestling business. Lawler was a wrestling business. Jarrett was a wrestling business. Vince was the one that was putting together infrastructure. He was putting infrastructure together so you could get closed circuit before you had pay-per-view. That's why he hired the Briscoe brothers. Vince was the one that was hiring business people. He was the one that hired Timmy White to go to these arenas and make sure they couldn't steal from Vince when it was all in all cash business. Guys weren't doing this. You weren't hiring people out of Hollywood to be part of your TV company back in the day because it was all guys were just doing wrestling. That's the difference now. Look, I'm not trying to insult anybody out there, but these guys they're not wrestling. This is an entertainment business. That Nick Khan is a freaking rainmaker. I mean, God almighty, he's like a freaking ATM. The partnership that you have with Ari, with Triple H, with Nick, with Bruce, with all the people that you have up there. I mean, this is a world-class operation. What they're doing together and the synergies that they have, throw in the bull riding too, which I think has always been, bull riding to me has always been the sports betting dream because you can handicap the bull, you can handicap the rider, then you have 8 seconds and all of a sudden you've got this instant either satisfaction or you get burned and you want to do it again, either way. And I say that because they bought the PBR, I believe it was with TKO. But they've got an integration now with all these cable companies. They are putting together this incredible, powerful global conglomerate that is going to be fascinating. And that's, to me, is what's so big about AAA. This is a huge deal. I mean, when you've got a guy, look at Natalya. Natalya, I think, has done a wonderful job. I've said this many times, how much I love Natty, love her husband, Tyson. I loved her dad, Jim. Jim was a really good friend of mine. Anvil Neidhart, you didn't know him, man, what a good dude. But you have Natty, who's now creating this new image of Natty, not Natalya, the granddaughter of Stu Hart, which is part of her image, which is going to all these different places. Well, now Natty's down in AAA. Now all of a sudden you've got a rebirth. You've got a person that's been around for a while in WWE. They've wrestled everybody. What do? Now you put them in AAA, or you put them into another place that you're going to buy or partner with. You create new life with them without expanding anything from your creative and without having to use up your roster. I mean, this is something that I've heard WWE talk about this for 30 plus years, about how this is a global presence they're going to have. They're building it now. And this is absolutely remarkable what they're doing. Wait to see what they're doing. What they're doing now is nothing compared to what this is going to be in 5 to 10 years. This when you talk about, is this a peak? I don't know. It may be a peak as far as talent. You don't know who's going to get over the next 5 to 10 years, or if somebody does. I feel like somebody probably will, but you don't know that for sure. You can't guarantee that, but you can guarantee the infrastructure that will be behind it. That infrastructure is going to be behind it is going to be global. And you're going to have, I think, territories in all these different places. You're going to have performance centers in all these different places. This is an incredible run that is just beginning with TKO.
Well, a lot of people are wondering, what does this leave for AEW? And there's been a lot of reports that perhaps WWE is trying to work with TNA to get them on CW or A&E to be heads up live on Wednesday nights at the Performance Center. And there's, of course, this conversation from Brandon Thurston about how, wow, WWE is kind of locked up a lot of media partners here. And now fans are actually trolling Tony Khan on social media, saying WWE is going to come put you out of business. And Tony couldn't help himself and responded and said something like, that'll be the day, which I thought was kind of funny. But of course, now everybody's talking about perhaps WWE counter programming the next big AEW pay-per-view. We're talking about AEW All Out, which is going to be happening in Canada, Toronto, Canada, on Saturday, September 20th. And as the story goes, allegedly WWE is booking a last-minute PLE on like a month out in Indianapolis on September 20th. There's even speculation they may call this show WrestlePalooza, but that might actually be where they launch Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. Now, if you're a hardcore AEW fan, you may take a little offense to that. As a hardcore wrestling fan, I think competition's great. I mean, I look back at what happened in July, and people were all up in arms about Goldberg's last match happening on the same day as the AEW pay-per-view. That didn't affect anything. Both shows were tremendously successful. I don't think this counter programming hurts. I think it actually adds to wrestling as a whole. I'm all for Brock Lesnar versus John Cena happening that same day. What a big day that would be for wrestling fans. Right.
And good Lord, business competition. This is the first time that's ever happened. I mean, all these snowflakes out there going, oh, they shouldn't run the same day. Blow me. God almighty, man. It's how many times before Blockbuster went out of business did you see a video store open up in your hometown and Blockbuster would put their store right next to it? This has happened. This is what business does. This is nothing new. This isn't like, oh my goodness, they're trying to stifle their competition. Really? That's the first time that's ever happened in the history of the world, was that you were worried about your competition enough that you were going to try to stifle them. And so this is such bullshit. I love it. I think it's great business. I think it's fun. I was there for the whole Monday Night War. I was there from the beginning to the end and all that. They don't have Eric Bischoff. I'm not taking a shot at Mr. Tony Khan down there. Not at all. I've only met him once. Don't know him. Wish no ill will. But Bischoff was a game opponent, man. We didn't see that coming, and that's a lesson for people. By the way, if you'd have told us in 92, 93 that WCW was going to beat us for 83 weeks and they have a chance of putting us out of business, there's not a soul in our dressing room or their dressing room that would have believed that. And along comes Eric Bischoff, and that changed freaking everything. That guy did one of the biggest corporate turnarounds in the history of corporate turnarounds. It's legendary what that man did. Don't know if that could happen now. We didn't see it then. Now, it didn't happen before that. It hadn't happened since. Eric's a once-in-a-generation guy, but you never know. But that's why you fight competition. That's why you have good business practice. This isn't predatory business practice. This is business practice. And there's a big freaking difference. I mean, brother, you're messing with guys that are alpha males. And not that Tony Khan is not, but these guys they're going to protect their business. And they should. I'm a shareholder, by the way, in TKO, not a big one, not even one that's big enough to be registered, but I bought stock in it because I think it's one of the best entertainment companies in the world. That's why I bought stock in it. I'm proud as a shareholder that they're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, every time you turn around, it's another headline of success for WWE. And the latest is not only might they be doing this PLE on September 20th, not only might they hold off and headline John Cena and Brock Lesnar on that same day, but it might perhaps be the first show on ESPN, which would be monstrous. I think a lot of us expected the ESPN deal to start next year. But if we're talking about a month from now, John, we might be watching John Cena and Brock Lesnar on ESPN. What a freaking way for John Cena. I mean, what a feather in the cap for him on his farewell tour. You want to talk about getting the word out. Hey, you can see John Cena in one of his last matches on ESPN. That'll be huge, John.
Huge. And if you want to get Brock off his ranch, you get him, get him to quit hunting animals. He might be hunting people too. He is Brock. He thought if the aliens invade us, we're going to send Brock out there. That'll stop that shit right away. You boys will go back to Mars. But this will get Brock off his ranch. I mean, this is a huge deal. You know, Brock's one of the biggest draws in pay-per-view history, both in MMA and in professional wrestling. To be the headline of this ESPN deal. I mean, again, this is what TKO does well. I mean, this freaking UFC deal is huge. I mean, these guys are just, I mean, they are killing it right now. It is like every single week you see a new press release like, oh, we've got a new multi-billion-dollar deal somewhere. I mean, good Lord, man. What a great time to be in the wrestling business. Or what a great time to be a wrestling fan.
It's going to be big. I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, I think we all know just the mass appeal that John Cena has and that Brock Lesnar has. If they wind up putting that on ESPN, I feel like it's going to be gangbusters for WWE, for ESPN, and for wrestling at large. Like, these are the type of events, if that really happens, we'll look back one day and say, man, the second boom, the next level explosion, whatever's coming, started with John Cena and Brock Lesnar on ESPN. I talked about that last week with Jeff. We think, John, and I want your opinion, that this WWE ESPN opportunity might be the biggest deal in wrestling history. Don't you think?
100%. My God, yes. And you talk about airport appeal, Brock Lesnar and John Cena. I mean, my God, man, if you're flipping through the ESPN or you're going through your app like everybody does that's a sport fan like me, and all of a sudden you see this freaking Brock and he still looks as good as he ever looked. Cena still got this incredible body, one of the greatest of all time. And all of a sudden you look at the guy, oh my God, these guys are wrestling? I mean, this is that airport appeal that you talked about. Like, oh my God, talk about a hook. You couldn't have two better guys to do this if that is indeed what it is. And I think that ESPN, look, we didn't have ESPN cover us. And they wouldn't, you know, I was there when they first started covering us just a little bit. Then they realized how big wrestling was. Now you've got your own, now you got to deal with ESPN. I mean, this is huge. I mean, absolutely huge. You know, ESPN gets it. And it's such a dynamic shift from where we were just 25 years ago when sports were sports, you know, and they wouldn't cover sports entertainment. Now you realize that everything's sports entertainment, which, by the way, I've always said, you know, Michael Jordan, in my opinion, the greatest of all time, arguably the greatest of all time, Chicago Bulls, and especially in the two three-peats, probably the greatest runs of all time, greatest teams of all time. Certainly could argue Bill Russell's Celtics and, you know, maybe Steph Curry's Warriors later. But there's some teams you could argue about it, but arguably the greatest. You know, they didn't just come out to introductions. They came out to laser light shows and smoke, all the different stuff. Anybody who didn't need that was Michael Jordan. So all these sports purists that would say, oh, we don't need that shit, man. That's WWE stuff. They all do it now because they understand it's sports entertainment. And that's where ESPN has gotten now. And I agree with you. I think it could be the biggest deal in wrestling history.
I can't wait for us to break that down. I do want to talk a little bit about CM Punk, but before we do, this ESPN thing, I think it doesn't go official until April of next year. So this would be John Cena's last chance, but it would give something for ESPN to really hype and promote and talk about, which would be huge for WWE, huge for Brock Lesnar, and most of all, huge for John Cena. So I, for one, hope it happens. I hope there's smoke behind this fire, and we do see John Cena on ESPN for the first time, for the last time. That'd be really cool, man.
That'd be really cool. And I nicknamed him Big Match John. I got after Big Match Rob, Big Shot Rob. Rob Horry was the guy, who hit like 5 or 6, game-winning shots in big games. And, at the time, Rob Horry was not a guy who played a lot of minutes, especially later in his career. I remember they put him out there one time and just said, shoot the ball. And you put out a guy named Big Shot Rob, and you don't guard him, and he hits the freaking 2-point or 3-point, whatever it is, and wins the game. That's where I got the idea for Big Match John. Brock's the same way. These are prime-time performers. And if you want somebody to perform at a level that matches the hype that goes with it, these are your two guys. And I think if you're going to do it, these are the two guys to do it with.
SaveWithConrad.com.
My name is Rajiv. I'm in Sacramento, California. I came to Save with Conrad because I've heard Conrad talk about how he helps people all the time save money and the best route to go for getting some mortgages and finances done. And having heard so many different testimonials in the past, it made the most sense to go this route. We were in the market for a new house and we wanted to know what we could afford. So we spoke with Steve and then Diane to get through the pre-approval process to see what we could afford. And then once we were able to understand that aspect of it, that was when we were able to shop around for a house to get a mortgage through Save with Conrad. Everybody on the team was great. Everybody really explained everything fully to where it was more in like layman's terms to where I could understand it as someone not in the business or having shopped around for houses too many times. So being able to understand every step of the process and talking with everyone on the team about that was really, really helpful. And it made me feel really confident that I was going the right route. I would definitely recommend Save with Conrad to others. I know that sometimes people look at it and they go, oh, they're based in Alabama. What could they help me with? But I'm out here in California and they were able to square everything away and get things done really quickly, as opposed to sometimes even people out here don't move as quickly as the Save with Conrad team. So everything was really well done, really efficient, and I would definitely recommend Save with Conrad to others. My name is Rajiv. I'm in Sacramento, California, and I was able to get into my dream home with SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 212, non-equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.